This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts, Luke Sylvia and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic! What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is December 4th, 2023. Jonathan Osborne here, as always, joined by my co-host Luke Sylvia. Luke, we are officially in the Christmas season. What is going on, man? How are you?
Well, first, Jonathan, I want to apologize first and foremost to my fans. There's no shirt tonight. I mean, there is a shirt tonight. I apologize that there is. It's not my fault. You can blame a back-to-back, a scheduled loss, if you will, for the reason that I do have a shirt on tonight. Moving forward, once the team is on a 5-game winning streak or more, if it happens again this season, shirt comes off. All right? So those that want to talk to the team about it, tell them you need a 5-game win streak so that you can see old Luke take a shirt off, because that'll happen. But so that era, that moment has passed now, and I send my condolences to you that I'm not shirtless on this episode. That being said, Jonathan,
No, you're really embracing the nipple thing. Like
I feel like I need a thing. You know what I mean? I think I need a thing right now. It wasn't going to be a thing. All right, it was going to be a one and done. I came back the next episode, ironically, to the episode called Streaking, and I had my shirt back on. And people were like, hey, where's it at? So the next one I came through and said, I'm going to wear this until we lose. And we lost. So unfortunate, but I'm embracing it, you know? I think that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, more power to you. I was contemplating it. Had we got to 10, I was really thinking about it. But unfortunately,
shirtless.
We didn't get there. We're going to talk about that. We'll talk about the streak in general, really. But a couple of things before we start talking Magic basketball. Next episode of the Sixth Fan Show is going to be filmed next Friday, December 11th, when the Magic play the Cleveland Cavaliers at home. Our next watch party is going to be December 15th, when the Magic play in Boston. That night we'll be at Castaway Sports Bar and Grill, 504 North Alafaya Trail. Watch party is going to start about 7:30. Tip-offs at 8 o'clock that night. Make sure that you come out and hang out with us. It's going to be a good time, and hopefully we can beat the Celtics again, Luke. Cole Anthony was on the Low Post on Zach Lowe's podcast the other day, and Zach Lowe asked him, like, why is it that you guys just play so well against Boston? And Cole Anthony just said, Eddie House. That is the reason why. He says, forever, it will be personal when we play Boston. And Luke, I personally love that.
Yeah, you have to. You have to, because that's the petty stuff that, like, we as fans can only usually dream about, where it's like, I wish our players were as petty as us and they would get fired up when we get a win because of whatever it is, right? Fill in the blank. In this instance, I'm glad we share the same thing. And I figured that was the case because after last year, when we beat them for the third time, all the players started tweeting out Rafer just slapping Eddie House in the back of the head. And I was like, wow, they are as petty as we are. And then for Cole Anthony to double down and be like, this is right. Your people are correct. He was like, it's true. It's all Eddie House's fault. You can't call us trash, is basically what he said, and get away with it. And that's what they're doing every single time. So I am very happy for December 15th and 17th. See if this team can yet again upset Eddie House. And maybe we get another iconic reply from Eddie House. Maybe we poke the bear on the 15th or the 17th after the wins. Maybe after the 17th, we wait till we win again. And we're like, hey, Eddie, just add him on X. And I'm sure he remembers us because he sure remembered to tweet at us earlier.
That's where I was going. Like, I feel involved now. Like, we're in this. We're in this with the boys. It's the Orlando Magic and the Sixth Man Show versus Eddie House and, like, the entire fan base, which, like, this is as close as we've ever been to being a part of the team. So
yeah, exactly.
They've got beef with Eddie. We've got beef with Eddie, and it's a great time.
He's got beef with us and the team.
It's fantastic.
I
love
really
it.
It's beautiful. I love sports.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's just really, really awesome. If you didn't listen to that episode of the Low Post with Cole Anthony, go ahead and check that out. And this week there was a great episode of the Pod Squad with Jalen Suggs. If you haven't listened to that, go check that out as well. Just want to talk a moment about the Duvin event that happened last Friday, or last Thursday rather. We've been talking about the Duvin launch that was happening this past week. They're like Pinstripes in Paradise, collab is what I think the official name was. And I got the chance to go to the launch party last week, and down there at the yard at Ivanhoe. I had never been down there. Really, really nice spot, like restaurants and bars and everything like that, area, little pockets to hang out. And this year, what they did last year is they came out and they handed everyone like a little ticket that had like a menu on it. And you could say, I want this item, this size, and this is how many of that I want. And it worked pretty well. But just like the scale was so much bigger this year. Like when I got there last year, I got there about 40 minutes before the event started, and there were maybe 50 people in the parking lot. I got there about 30 minutes before the event, and there were probably like 120 plus people already waiting. So this year was just a QR code. Like you scan the QR code, you punch in your order, you pay for it on your phone, and then you get a text message when it's ready. So just wanted to, again, say thanks to Duvin for the drop. Like getting this kind of gear for Magic fans, I think was just really, really awesome. And then a big thank you to Garrett and the entire team at Duvin for allowing us to be a part of it, and just congratulate them on an awesome launch. And if you were lucky enough to get a piece of this drop, you know how quality all of the materials are and everything like that. And yeah, I don't know if they completely sold out Friday at the game. If they didn't, I would guess that there might still be some items available at the team shop, but you'll have to go to the team shop to find that. Okay, Luke, let's talk about the state of the Magic. This week, your Orlando Magic went 2-1 with 2 wins over Washington, and then the blowout loss on Saturday to the Brooklyn Nets. They currently sit second in the Eastern Conference with a record of 14-6. The winning streak ended at 9 games, which ties for the franchise record with the 2010-2011 streak, the streak in 2001, and in 1994. Look, I wanted to take a moment and just sort of talk about the streak for a couple of minutes here. Although everybody wanted the Magic to get to 10, right, to set the new franchise record. And sure, we're going to talk about the Brooklyn loss, and just the team did not play well. That loss really, really sucked. People were really looking forward to breaking the record and witnessing the Magic do that. But I just want to congratulate the team on like really just playing their butts off the last, 2.5 weeks, I think it was, leading up to the loss in Brooklyn. I cannot remember, other than like the finals and playoff runs, I cannot really remember a more fun stretch of the regular season than that 9-game win streak. Like even going back to 2019, like finishing 22-9 was a lot of fun. You had a few smaller win streaks in there, but winning 9 games in a row, especially against the caliber opponents that you did, with the expectations nationally going into the season for the Magic, I'll never forget this win streak. It was just so much fun, and credit to the guys. They played really, really well, and now you have a chance to go start another one.
I will forever look back at this run, obviously, but the games I'm going to really look back on are as the stretch that we had against the Pacers. You're going in number 1 offense at the time against number 1 defense. You win that game. Toronto, it's always just good to beat Toronto. They're a decent team. Then you go and you beat Denver. You beat Boston. That was just such a incredibly fun 4-game stretch. And even going back to like the end-season tournament game on that Friday against the Bulls, like there was just a ton of really notable fun
the one
games.
Before that with Paolo game winner. I mean,
of course, like you can find
full
something
of awesome moments.
You can find something from each of these games that makes it memorable. And I think that's what makes it so special, right? Maybe not the Washington games because, but man,
we got an iconic dunk, an iconic Orlando Magic photo from that first Wizards game.
Maybe that is true. Maybe you can find something memorable in every single game.
And then the last one matched the franchise record. So it's like every single one of those games was incredible.
And the other thing to note too, I know that I'm talking to Magic fans, probably 99.9% Magic fans right now who
this is a safe space,
understand this, but being clowned on social media has never felt so good to me. Like we're winning and they're so mad. Like everybody that is an NBA fan is just so mad. And like you said, the switch up was crazy, going from the kind of the darling young team in the NBA, one of them, where people are like, wow, look at the Magic, they're doing their thing. And then it's like, wait. You guys just did a complete 180.
Lasted 5 minutes.
You guys did a complete 180. All of a sudden, we're overrated and we're only beating bad teams. And it's like, do you not understand why this has only happened? Like that 9-game win streak has only happened 3 other times in franchise history. All of those teams, by the way, making the postseason, one specifically making the NBA finals. Like, do you not understand that? It is hard to win games in the NBA. You got teams every night losing to teams they have no business losing to in this league. And it's really because of the talent level, obviously. Like these guys are all talented players. It only takes one player on the other team going off, even on a bad team, to beat a team they had no business beating. This is not normal to win 9 games in a row. It's not normal. Even if you are elite, right? So the NBA, the Magic team that made the finals with Dwight Howard didn't even do this, right? Like, you don't think they had stretches against bad teams like the Magic did? Because in this stretch, yes, you played teams like Chicago who had been struggling. You played teams like Charlotte and Washington as well. But teams always do that. This is normal. That you can look at your schedule and be like, these are easy parts of your schedule. It's not our fault that we just happen to win all of them and then go on to beat teams like Denver and Boston or the Pacers, the best offense in the league. Like, it is not normal. Without 2 of your
starters for the entire streak, by the way.
And that's what people love to also leave out. None of this was normal in the slightest. This team should be nothing but proud of themselves. We should be nothing but proud of them, regardless of how it ended. It ended very bitterly. But guess what, guys? We're not even a fourth of the way through the season. We're almost there. This team is going to have a lot of fun stretches throughout this year. I know that. They're going to have stretches against teams that we have, quote unquote, no business beating, which eventually that's going to shift. But you're just going to continue doing that. And this team is going to become more and more fun. I'm so proud of them. And hopefully, and I think this will be the case, you join those other teams that had that 9-game win streak, you're making the postseason.
I think that's the appropriate response to the loss and now the streak ending. Like, yes, we're going to talk about this.
Right.
There are signs of concern. There are things to be, a little bit, maybe not worried, but again, to be concerned about. But the Magic are also getting ready to practice the next 2 days. They haven't had much practice time throughout this streak. A lot of those games on the road, broken up by the holiday as well. So they haven't had a ton of practice time recently. And, teams around the league have adjusted a little bit to, the Magic's defensive strategy as well. So this is going to give them time to fine-tune the defense a little bit. But we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But just wanted to give a couple of minutes and speak and give attention specifically to the streak because, one of the 4 best streaks in Magic history. And you just absolutely have to talk about that and give credit where credit is due because this team was just incredibly locked in for, like I said, 2.5 weeks, whatever it was, close to 3 weeks, I think. And they're still a long, I don't think we're going to get another 9-game win streak here. That's just wouldn't be reasonable to expect out of any team.
Mm-hmm.
But you're 20 games in now, you're 14-6. We're going to be just fine. Just get some things back on track and get back to winning basketball games. And let's not all, get hung up about the first loss that we've had in almost 3 weeks. That'd be a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah.
Going back to the state of the Magic, again, second in the Eastern Conference. Right now, they're tied with Milwaukee record-wise. They're 1.5 games up on Philadelphia and New York, 3 games up on Indiana, Miami, and Cleveland. The Magic are now 14th in the NBA on the season in offensive rating with a rating of 113.7. They're 4th in the NBA in defensive rating with a rating of 109.3. And they're now 7th in net rating with a net rating of 4.4. Looking at the injury report, Markelle Fultz has missed the last 12 games with left knee tendonitis. Wendell Carter Jr. has missed the last 15 games with a fractured third metacarpal in his left hand. He had the cast off early last week. Goes back to the doctor in about a week or so. We should get another update on Wendell as he continues to work back, getting back into the lineup with the Magic here. And then Jonathan Isaac messed up the ankle. What was that? Wednesday. Missed the game on Friday.
Yeah.
Or no, came back on Friday. So no, he injured the ankle against Boston, came back in against Boston, re-aggravated I forget when he re-aggravated it now. That's eluding me. But he came back on Friday, played 6 minutes, 49 seconds, re-aggravated it, was available to play on Saturday, but did not play after the game. Jason Beatty from the Orlando Sentinel asked him about why J.I. was available and wasn't able to play. He said, I think J.I. will be okay. It's going to continue to be monitored as we go along just to make sure we're doing the right thing by him and our organization. So seems like the trainers said J.I. could play. He was made available to play. And somebody, I don't know if it was Jamal or someone else, made the decision that Jonathan just wasn't going to play in this game. And I like, result aside, I can't really say that whoever made that decision that I really blame them, because if he's not 100% and ready to go, why risk it? We've seen him at 100% this year, playing really, really well. If he's at risk at all, to re-aggravate that, especially, traveling and everything like that, I'm okay erring on the side of caution with J.I.
Do you think if the Magic aren't getting throttled in that first quarter that J.I. plays in this game?
I don't think so. Just because you're getting throttled in the first quarter, like we've seen J.I. come in like, midway through the second, play a few minutes, or, not play the entire third and start the fourth. So like, just because he goes an entire quarter without playing, and like you said, the Magic were getting just absolutely freaking worked. Shout out Mikal Bridges. I don't think so. Like, because this team is absolutely capable coming back from a 21-point deficit, especially against Brooklyn, which I know we're going to talk about that game. I still feel like we're a better team than Brooklyn, which makes the last two games against them incredibly frustrating. But to answer your question, no, I don't think that had anything to do with it. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like that answer is weird to me. For him to just be saying, I don't know what Jason Beatty's exact verbiage was on the question, but the answer just to go straight into I think J.I. is going to be okay or whatever it mostly said. It's like, hold on. Why was he available?
Fair question.
What changed? Because maybe they said he was available, and then trainers right before tip were like, yeah, he's available, but not really. Or, yeah, he's available, but maybe not smart. That's why I ask you about like the deficit at the end of the first. You lose by 21 points in that first quarter. That's not super common to be down 21 after one, maybe after a half or a quarter and a half. But that's why I'm just racking my brain trying to understand. I'm going to go with the most realistic option, which is that the trainers, they said he was available, and then right before getting pregame work in, they were like, oh, maybe not. So whatever. I don't know. Kind of weird, but just added to the oddness of what the night would become.
Well, they're going to have a couple of days off here. So if he was available Saturday, didn't play, they're going to get a couple of practices in. They'll play on Wednesday. So I would assume that he'll be good for that, but you just never know. So we're going to have to wait and see what goes on with that. But that was a little bit weird there. So let's go back. I know we've just talked so much about this Brooklyn game already, but going back to the game on Friday against the Wizards. Second game, playing them in 3 nights. Again, you were going into this game trying to beat the same team twice in a row. Always difficult. Trying to match the franchise record for longest win streak. Not a great start for the Magic. They gave up what ended up being, what was at the time the most points that they've given up in the first quarter all season, which was 36 points. Wizards hit 7 of their first 9 threes in this game. Magic had 9 first half turnovers, trailed by 3 at the half. Orlando did a great job getting to the line 14 times in the third quarter, converting on 11 of them. Also forced Washington into 7 turnovers to take a 3-point lead heading into the fourth. And then Franz Wagner helped spark a 7-0 run in the middle of the fourth quarter for the Magic to give them the lead for good, Luke. And then the Magic win 130 to 125. Wasn't really pretty. This game was pretty frustrating for me to watch, especially defensively, because David Seeley talked about this on the broadcast. He said, it feels like if the Magic can just put 3 to 4 stops in a row together, they can really take it like advantage of this game and close it out, which is exactly what happened midway through the fourth quarter when the Magic go on that 7-0 run, give themselves just enough space to end up closing this game out. But to me, that's how the Magic were playing. Like, they realized at any time we can flip this switch, get a few stops, and end this game, and trying to conserve a little bit of energy, knowing that they were going to have to go into Brooklyn the next night with the back-to-back. But to me, as this game went on, Washington just looked more and more confident. Like, hey, we can hang with these guys. We're still in this game. We might be able to steal one on the road. And that is just not a mentality that I think the Magic should be approaching any opponent with. And it got a little bit more concerning as the game went on. And now when you look at this game, you look at the first Wizards game, you look at the game against the Hornets, and then you look at Saturday's game against the Nets, it's like, okay, there seems to be a little bit of a trend building here with the Magic sort of sliding defensively the last week or so. But Magic get the W. Again, beat another team 2 straight games like they did Washington. Always hard to do. And they matched, again, the franchise record longest win streak.
My mom and dad went to this game, Jonathan, as I told y'all in our group chat. They go to this game, and I get a text from my dad. Maybe it was the end of the first quarter, maybe. The Wizards win that quarter by 5. Give up 36 points to the Wizards in the first quarter, which is unacceptable. My dad texts me and he says, "Hey, who taught these guys how to shoot between this game and last game?" And I was like, I couldn't tell you. But then he was asking me about Kyle Kuzma and, hey, who is that guy? And Kuzma, he's going to do his thing. He's definitely that guy on a bad team that's going to stuff the stat sheet, as we've seen. But it was an irritating game. Thankfully, the Magic end up shooting 51% from the field in this one, because the Nets do end up, shooting. The Wizards end up shooting 50%, almost 51. But the Wizards kind of mirrored the Magic in this game in terms of what they were doing, because in this one they shoot 28 threes, which is kind of also the Magic's calling card. It's like, hey, we're not going to shoot that many threes, right? They get to the paint. They score 54 in the paint, which isn't bad, but the Magic end up scoring 60. You shoot the same amount of field goals. You both shoot 89. Like I said, you're both low in 3-point volume. The Magic don't shoot bad from 3. They just don't shoot 46% from 3 like the Wizards do. But yeah, this game all around was frustrating. Like you said, it feels like they could flip the switch whenever they wanted. There was multiple times in this game where, you could feel maybe a little bit on edge because of where the game was at, but it just never felt that way, much like the game before against the Wizards. Paolo Banchero in this one offensively was a monster. 28 points, 7 assists, 2 turnovers, and 13 rebounds. 3 of which being the offensive rebounds. He played awesome in this one. You have to mention him. Franz Wagner gets to the free throw line and shoots 14 of them. He goes 12 of 14 from the line. Defensively, yes, this team had been showing signs of slipping. They absolutely do that. You give up 125 to the Wizards. You pull it out. That's what good teams do. They pull it out there at the end. So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. This game kind of feels a little bit like a throwaway. The Magic win by 5 and whatever, but you still get really fun offensive performances from our guys.
Yeah, I think some people were sort of talking about this game after the game and like, oh well, that's just what's going to happen with the Wizards. Like they're going to score a lot of points because like that's what they try to do. But like we go back to that Pacers game, like they were the number one offensive team in the league going into that game, and
you got up for it.
Yeah, like you got up for it. That's exactly my point. Charlotte, Washington, 2 games in a row, and then you're going into Brooklyn. I know it's the second night of a back to back, but I genuinely believe that this team is good enough that we don't need to, and we should not be making excuses for them playing poorly. I don't care that it's the second night of a back to back. I genuinely don't. In my opinion, my standard for this team is raised. Best teams in the league go out. Doesn't matter if it's second night of a back-to-back, last game of a long road trip, or anything like that. You have a chance to go out and make franchise history, do something that this team has never been able to do before against a team that just about 3 weeks ago kicked your you-know-what, embarrassed you, ended up knocking you out of the in-season tournament essentially because of the point differential that you came away with in that game. And I keep saying we're not going to talk about the Brooklyn game, but we keep mentioning it. And you just didn't really get up for it. And I'm just at the point now where like this team is good enough that like the excuses that we've made for Magic teams in the past, oh, they're young. Oh, they're learning how to win. Oh, it's the second night of a back-to-back. Oh, it's this team. Oh, it's that team. I'm personally done with that. And that might be a bit harsh or too critical, but that's coming from a place where like I just really think this team is way better than a team that we should be making excuses for.
I agree to an extent. Unfortunately, in that game against Washington, Paolo logs like 38 minutes and plays his butt off offensively. And then you come into that Nets game and it's,
Whose fault is it that Paolo had to play 38 minutes?
The teams for it being close.
Right, exactly.
To which I get.
Take care of business against teams that you should take care of business on.
It just doesn't take away from the fact that like that's what happened. So going into that Brooklyn game, like we can be frustrated about the performance against Washington, like for both occasions, honestly. But when it comes to that Brooklyn game, at that point, what's happened has happened. And it is the facts. Like Paolo played 38 minutes the night before, gets on a jet, goes and plays in Brooklyn. Stinks. I think matchup wise, the Nets do pose some problems. Obviously, they're 2-0 against us, and it stinks that what it boils down to is it really does suck that to break the franchise record comes on a back to back. Eventually, you're going to run into that. You had a pretty cushy homestand there, obviously, but then you had to make it happen, and the team ran out of gas.
We're going to talk about that game, but first, we're going to talk about the Jam of the Week presented by Jam Hot Chicken. So we talked about the Wizards, the win on Friday, but let's go back to Wednesday night versus the Wizards with 6:45 to go in the fourth quarter. Jalen Suggs, you can see him just waiting for Landry Shamet to try to make the pass, baits him into making the pass, jumps the passing lane like a free safety, drives the length of the floor. He sees Cole Anthony coming out of the corner of his eye, throws the underhand lob to Cole and the jam while Jalen runs to the baseline, recreating the iconic Dwayne Wade to LeBron James dunk photo from their days with the Miami Heat. That puts the Magic up 21 points, and then Jalen Suggs proceeds to hype up the crowd. That photo goes viral all over social media. Dwayne Wade sees it, respect Kings or whatever he commented on that. Just goes all across the league, followed by more Jalen Suggs hate. People can't believe that he would do the iconic Dwayne Wade pose. But that, again, part of this 9-game winning streak immediately becomes an iconic photo in Orlando Magic history. And it was really, really fun just to see the entire league react to that play, and it was awesome.
That game was what, our 7th in a row, I believe.
Eighth.
So that was early. It was our 8th. Okay. I don't think this jam of the week exists if the Magic aren't streaking, feeling themselves, to make that happen. I don't think this happens if, you lose the night before, you're like a 500 basketball team. This doesn't happen. But this is the type of fun stuff you get and content you get when your team is balling. And these guys were doing just that. They still are, if I'm being quite honest. They still are doing their thing, impressing everybody. Shout out Jalen Suggs for that. Cole Anthony didn't even know it happened. And I didn't know it happened until we saw the replay. Like, I obviously saw pretty much what Cole saw. Jalen throws it, runs over, starts pumping up the crowd, doing his thing. And then you get to watch the replay, and it's like, whoa. Hey, hold on a second. What did he just do? And then you're looking you're looking at angles, and you're like, all right, which photographer could have possibly gotten that? I hope someone got it. And then we find out that someone got it. Incredible photo. Man, Jam Hot Chicken Jam of the Week. And just to continue talking about Jam Hot Chicken. Jam Hot Chicken, they're proudly serving the city beautiful with jams, culture, and hot chicken. Nashville and LA inspired hot chicken. I've had it once, guys. Once. I'm still dreaming about it. Go to jamhotchickenfl.com to place an order ahead of time. That's the move. As I've talked about the last couple times we've spoken about Jam Hot Chicken. Located at 400 West New England Avenue, Suite 13 in Hannibal Square. If you are an out-of-towner coming to Orlando, before you DM us, which is completely fine, before you DM us and you're like, hey, can I get recommendations for Orlando? Understand that reply is always going to have Jam Hot Chicken in that. That's what you should do when you come to Orlando before the game. It's a perfect spot to go do that. It's a nice outside setup. Check out Jam Hot Chicken. Tell them that we sent you.
Luke, obviously we talked about the Jam of the Week. If Paolo Banchero's dunk on Day'Ron Sharpe in the Brooklyn Nets game ignites the team to like a comeback win, franchise, record-setting night, does that become our Jam of the Week? I feel like it would just like it's the context, I think, in this case.
Yeah, well, of course, because let's be honest, the Suggs to Cole oop is the Jam of the Week, largely due in part to it being the recreation of D Wade and Braun. With Paolo, the dunk was better, if I'm being honest. I mean, we all know that. It's no secret. The poster was better. But yes, if this team, if they were leading at the time...
Doesn't hit the same down 25.
It doesn't. And also, I'll go there, I guess. Paolo's just talking his talk after that dunk. And I was so irritated seeing people comment and be like, scoreboard, blah, blah, blah. Why is he talking? They're down 25. And it's like, he's just chirping, man.
He just sent the man to the graveyard.
It doesn't change the fact that the dude got just obliterated at the rim. Let him talk. He's a rookie of the year. He's averaging 20 points a game. He's incredible. Let him do what he wants. Incredible dunk by Paolo. Give him his flowers for that, absolutely.
It's reigning Eastern Conference Player of the Month right there. He can do whatever the hell he wants.
That's right.
Let's take a quick moment to give a quick shout out to our wonderful patrons, the folks that help make each and every episode possible. If you're interested at all in supporting the podcast, if you're a new listener and you're appreciating the content that we put out, and you're so excited about what this team is doing, and you want to be a part of the community and help further our mission of growing the fan base and putting on awesome events and so on and so forth, you want to be a part of what we're doing, you can find us at patreon.com/the6manshow, where we have multiple tiers at different levels which you can join. If you decide to go the annual level and just pay for the entire year right off the bat, you get a pretty hefty discount as well on that. So again, find us at patreon.com/the6manshow. And we give a special shout out to our Hall of Fame and Elite tier patrons on each and every episode. I'm going to go ahead and start, as usual, with our boys, the Court Cousins, Drew Gooden, Armin, Carson Tulo, Jonathan Borges, Normal, Magic Player History, Gabe Gaines, Wiffle, Michael Martin, Jamel Miller, Michael Salapong, Donkey Punch Dave, Paolo and Francis Warmth, Pierre A., Dylan Holden, Mr. Mikey, Eduardo Sanchez, Danimal, Dutto15, Bobby Skinner, Goody93, Teddy Sylvia, Eric Lopez, Fuchsia, Bill Fulton, Edmund Lagone, Jose Esquilin, Caleb Pete, Cannibalism, Time, Mr. TV, ESPN Really Sucks, Gear 95, Shred, Junior Bruce, Half Reekin, Shahin177, Obi the Don, Himlo Ben Himro, R Improv 221, Ray Pastrana, Spanking Season, Soft Taco, Victor Cologne, Irish Magic Mike, Austin Lampy, Random Hustle, Eddie House's Burner, very nice, Maria, Keith Wallace, Fritz, Currency Kev, Bruv Sal, Kason Green, Santi Leon, Kane Eckler, The Distract, Ahmad Timsa, and Chansu. A big thanks to all of our patrons again. Find us at patreon.com/The Six Man Show. Okay, this one, we've been talking about this game the entire pod already, Luke, but let's actually talk about this Nets game from Saturday night. First of all, Anthony Black ponytail, second game in a row. We saw in I think it was the media day, like All Access, Jamal Mosley was telling Anthony Black that at some point during the year, you're going to have to rock the ponytail. So we saw that Friday night. It was like, oh man, look, Anthony Black. That's what his ears look like, rocking the ponytail there. And then went back to it Saturday night. So 2 straight games, Anthony Black rocking the ponytail. I got to say, I'm digging the ponytail look for Anthony Black.
The only thing I'm not digging is changing your hairstyle during a win streak. But
fair point.
Is what it is. I don't hate it. Like you said, I thought your post was really great talking about, oh, that's what his ears look like. I was like, I guess that's right. We haven't seen the man's ears. There we go. So yeah, that's I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. Keep getting wins. I won't hate it ever.
Well, what I hated is that this is the second straight game that you give up yet again another season high points in the first quarter there. I think it was 42 points in the first quarter in this one, Luke, if I'm not mistaken. 43 points, 43. Even better for the Brooklyn Nets. Markelle Brooklyn Bridges had 26 of those in the first quarter. Magic scored 22. So Markelle Bridges outscored the entire Magic roster in that first quarter, and you trail by 21 after one. The Orlando Magic shot 30% in the first half. The Nets shot 50%, and Orlando trailed by 22 at the half. Magic go on a big run in the third quarter. They shoot 63%, scoring 34 points in the third. They cut the lead to 9 with 3:09 to go in the third, and they trail by 13 heading into the fourth. Magic go on another little run. They cut the lead to 10 with 11 minutes, 12 seconds to go. And you feel like the Magic are really just starting to, once you get to 10, if you can get it to single digits, you felt like the Magic could make this a ball game, but they got the lead to 10 and then just simply ran out of gas. Over the next 11 minutes, Brooklyn outscored the Magic 38-13 to close the game, and the Magic end up losing this game 129-101. This was just a game like right out of the gates. The Magic just never had a chance with the way that they were defending, weren't really taking care of the basketball early on. The way that Markelle Bridges was shooting the basketball, the just absolutely outrageous whistle that Markelle Bridges got, especially to start this game. He had 8 free throw attempts in the first quarter, 18 for the game. When I say that you could not breathe on this kid without him getting a whistle, it's an absolute fact. The officiating was horrendous in this game. However, it was not the reason that the Magic lost. The Magic shot 27 free throws to Brooklyn's 31, and the Magic only made 1 less free throw than Brooklyn. So it was not the reason, but like in the first half, Markelle Bridges had like 3 or 4 straight possessions where on transition opportunities was just left wide open in the corner. Hit a couple of threes. I think got another layup off that as well. It was just like an incredibly frustrating first half, and the Magic just dug themselves a hole that was way too deep and could never get all the way out of it.
If you want to see something that's very frustrating, go to the shot chart wherever you look at your NBA stats and game stats, and go ahead and toggle that from saying all quarters to first quarter. Because if you do that, you will see that the Magic missed way more shots in the paint than they made in that first quarter. And the tone was set early. Goga misses a layup. Goga misses an alley-oop. You can't tell me that the start of this game doesn't change the trajectory of the rest of it. And the trajectory, obviously, of that first quarter where you end up getting beat 43-22. like I said, Goga misses those first two shots, and just something inside of me was like, I don't like this start at all, and it really doesn't feel like this is going to go well. And the funny part was, you still were like getting stops, like until like the 10-minute 30 mark. The score was like 3-2. You still were getting stops on the other end early, but you weren't converting and capitalizing on the stops you were getting. So tone gets set early. That really was the difference maker for me. And to your point about referees, you know this. I never, ever will say that the team lost because of free throws, and I'm not going to do it in this game. You can blame a ref. You can blame the refereeing if it screws you on the final play of the game or down the final stretch of the game. But you cannot do it when you lose by almost 30. Like,
I will say they helped Markelle get into one crazy rhythm.
You are very fortunate in this one that Bridges doesn't drop 50, that he only gets a 42. And I think that he definitely drops 50 if it's not a blowout. But frustrating, but due largely to the fact that you just could not get anything going in the first quarter. You end up losing every quarter but the third quarter. And every time the Magic did something, the Nets did something even better, right? When it comes to runs and whatever, you punch Brooklyn in the mouth in that third quarter, and then you lay an egg and you score 16 in the fourth. You're not going to win any game in which you score 22 in the first and 16 in the fourth. I don't care how well you play in that second or third quarter. 99% of the time, you lose that game. You look all out of sorts. I don't know if it's the case, but it feels like Brooklyn has our number. Again, wish this wasn't the second night of a back-to-back so we really could get, make a fair assessment in regard to that. But Brooklyn's got a lot of guys that are going to score. And they can do it well. They can get hot. I think that I don't know if this checks out. This could just be the eye test. Feels like they have a ton of streaky type of players. Cam Thomas can get going in an instant. He's awful in this game. 7 of 23. 20 points on 23 shots. Not good. But there's shots that Cam Thomas makes, and I'm like, how is he able to make that shot? It doesn't make sense. A lot of their offense is very weird, very wonky. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But a lot of ISO ball in Brooklyn. And it's a frustrating loss. You lose this one by 30. It snaps the streak. Is what it is, man, but definitely frustrating.
I don't think this guy is good, but against the Magic, I am terrified of Spencer Dinwiddie.
Mm-hmm.
Feels like every time that dude pulls up, it's going in. And he is the definition of streaky, at least against the Magic. He might not be hitting them. He makes 1 or 2 in a row, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, that dude's got 11 points in this quarter now, and is just torching the Magic. So they've got Cam, they've got Spencer Dinwiddie, they got Mikal Bridges. Even like Dennis Smith had a couple of moments in this game. Like the Savage comment after the game was like really, really corny. I felt like,
of course,
and Dan Savage apparently is now filing copyright infringement on Dennis Smith Jr. But yeah, to your point, like they just have guys that get really hot really quickly.
And also your assessment about Dinwiddie being streaky and also getting hot, absolutely valid. For his career, he's a 41% from the field. So streaky, absolutely. He's 33% from 3. And he's streaky because he can get super hot, but then he definitely can cool off for large stretches of games. And that's why he's a 41% from the field shooter for his career. So that checks out. But against the Magic, maybe he's just, he's got it out for him. Maybe a Magic killer. But I don't even know if that really checks out as far as stats. But we can find out. He's just played so many games against the Magic. In general, obviously, he's been in the league for a long time. 13.5 points, 4.5 assists, 3 rebounds. But it does feel like, largely he dropped 22. He dropped 29 the other time. 2 times before that, he dropped 29. He's got a lot of 20 plus point games for a guy that's not a 20-point game per year scorer.
So he just gets up for the Magic. Really, really appreciate that, Spencer. Thanks for doing us a solid, man.
Yeah.
Look, I just wanted to talk a little bit more about the trend that we're seeing, defensively, because like a game or two, like whatever, but like a week straight, and you're trending in a direction. The last 4 games, Luke, across the league, the Magic are 8th in offensive rating, which for the year, I believe we have them at 14th in offensive. Yeah, 14th in offensive rating in the NBA. Luke, the last 4 games, the Magic, who are 4th in defensive rating for the NBA, last 4 games are 23rd in defensive rating, playing so far underneath their standard. It's ridiculous. And I talked about this at the top, but I don't know if it's teams just sort of adjusting to what the Magic are doing. But it does feel like the last few games, like the effort on that end just simply isn't there. I don't know if it's, oh, hey, we're a young team and now we figured out the offense and the offense is really rolling, so we don't have to play that hard on that end. But last 4 games, 8th in offensive rating, you would think that we're blowing teams out. And that's just really not been the case. Like, you're barely beat Washington. It was closer than it should have been late against Charlotte. And then you just get absolutely smoked by the Nets. This Magic team, I'm not hitting the panic button by any means, but they just need to get in the gym and figure out how to get back on track defensively.
JJ Redick said something recently in regard to, I believe it was the Magic. I think it was, yeah. Talking about the defensive effort. This was before kind of the slide starts to happen, but it was defensively, but it is during the win streak. And he says they've got a great defense, but at some point you're going to have to address the offense and shooting and spacing. He said, and to do that, you're going to have to bring guys, more shooters on the roster. And with that, you're going to sacrifice defense. And so it doesn't totally correlate, obviously, between what he was saying specifically. But the point was, like, to add offense, you're going to have to take away from your defense. And I do think that is a lot to do with the fact that these guys are just getting out and running, maybe feeling themselves, falling in love with their jumper, and not really caring as much defensively because they think we can keep ourselves in the game or win the game with our offensive performance. And that takes maybe way less effort, right? You don't have to maybe kill yourselves on both sides of the ball, only one. And I think that's what we're seeing. And I think that is a lot of times the reason why maybe these shooters are not known to be great defenders, because they know their identity is shooting the basketball, not playing defense. And I am a little concerned that that's where this team would head if a guy like Jamal Mosley wasn't at the helm. You get a few days off, Jamal's going to remind them who they are. Hey, you're a defensive-minded team. You're a young team. I don't want to depend. And when you're younger, you absolutely have more propensity to be a streaky player, shooter, offensively. You're just young. You don't have as many reps, obviously. You don't know your game as well as you will future years down the road. Easy to fall in love with that jumper, get away from your defense because you think your offense can win you games now. And it's like, can their offense win them games? Yes, we saw it happen against Washington, right? We see it happen against Charlotte. Like we've seen it, that their offense can win them games. But to me, it's like, imagine if you put it together on both sides of the ball at the same time. You might not be where you have been on this stretch offensively in terms of offensive rating, but you're still giving yourself a much better shot if you're attempting well and equally on both sides of the ball. We'll see what they do, how they adjust, what they look like come Wednesday. I'm hopeful. I think you've got a great opportunity to just lock down on Wednesday against Cleveland. But man, you desperately need to lock in defensively, because you're not going to be able to depend on your jumper as a young team long term.
So right now, Cleveland is 23rd in the league in terms of offensive rating, and they are 8th in the league in defensive rating. So offense for the Magic, I think, is, on the year has been a little bit ahead of where, Cleveland has been, but Cleveland's been really solid defensively. I fully expect the Magic to just get in the gym Monday, Tuesday. They're practicing both of those days. That's what the Magic schedule says currently, at least, and just get that locked back in, figure it out. Like, you're a young team. Sometimes the defense is going to slip. And another thing that I don't really think we should underrate is how hard it is to continue that level of play for, whatever it was, 2.5 weeks for the Magic. And once you get past, 5-6 games in a row, you're on every team's radar. Like, every team knows that you're coming in hot. You're going to get their best shot night in and night out. And I think there is a level to that. Like, playing at that level, like sustaining winning for that long. That's why you don't see long win streaks happen very often in the NBA, because no matter how talented you are, it's incredibly difficult to keep up that level of play. So lock it back in. And the reason, Luke, that it's so important to do that, we'll talk about this in a little bit, is because the schedule starting now until the end of January, the next 2 months, the schedule is absolutely brutal. Talk about that in a little bit more in just a few minutes here, Luke. There's a conversation that you and I have sort of been like, circling the drain on. Like, we have talked about it a little bit, but we also felt like maybe it was too soon. But I feel like now it still might be too soon, but it's been long enough that I think it's appropriate to have the conversation when it comes to talking about Markelle Fultz and talking about Wendell Carter Jr. Markelle now has missed the last 12 games. Wendell has missed the last 15 games. Markelle played like one game in the middle of that where he missed a few games before that. So both of these guys, for the most part, have missed like the last 14, 15 games. And the Magic have been playing really, really good basketball in that time since those guys have been out. So people, really from the first couple of games when Anthony Black started knocking down corner threes, people were saying, hey, look at Anthony Black. Maybe we don't need Markelle Fultz. Maybe we're better without Markelle Fultz. Maybe we're better without Wendell Carter Jr. And I think that we should take a look at that, Luke. So before we get into the conversation, first of all, shout out to 0123 on Twitter, because he really helped with some of these stats and was sort of the inspiration of some of the numbers that I've looked at the last 12 games. So looking at touches, time of possession, usage percentage for individual players, looking at the starting lineup's offensive rating and the team's offensive rating, looking at that with Markelle Fultz and without Markelle Fultz, because I think we would both agree, and most people would agree, that the absence of Markelle Fultz has a much bigger impact on the team's offense than the absence of just Wendell Carter alone would. So I think it's probably best to look at it through that lens. So the first thing with Markelle Fultz, talking about Paolo Banchero's touches per game, they were 54.3 in games with Markelle Fultz. In the last 12 games without Markelle, Paolo is up to 71.9. So almost 20 more touches per game Paolo is averaging without Markelle Fultz. His time of possession per game almost doubling, and his usage rate has gone from 21.8 to 26.1. So fairly significant. Franz Wagner's touches, time of possession, and usage percentage are all relatively around where they were with Markelle in the lineup. Obviously, Jalen Suggs is seeing a much bigger role offensively. So his touches have gone from 33.5 to 37.4. Time of possession per game has gone from 1.3 to 2.4, and his usage percentage has gone from 17.8 up to 20. Now, Goga and Anthony Black, relatively limited roles offensively. That's just sort of the way that this lineup has been designed. But Luke, this is the last thing that I want to touch on here. The starter's offensive rating with Markelle Fultz was 105.4. The team's offensive rating in games that Markelle has played in, 107.1. The last 12 games, so it was 105 and 107. The last 12 games, the starter's offensive rating is 111.6, and the team's offensive rating is 116.5. So the offense is seemingly much more efficient these last 12 games without Markelle Fultz. What is your takeaways from just the hodgepodge of numbers that I just threw out there.
It raises a lot of really good questions, a lot of hard questions when it comes to this team. And what does it look like when Fultz comes back? Wendell, I'm not worried about him coming back, like in terms of it, affecting one way or another. But you can't ignore the numbers that you just said. You're not able to. And it's unfortunate, but this is a large sample size as far as comparatively in terms of when Markelle is out. Because I think he only played the first 5 games, something like that, and then from there on out, Paolo with almost 72 touches, whereas in a smaller sample size at 54. So you can't ignore it, and it's really just from a points output perspective. Paolo Banchero, 20 points per game in those games since Markelle left, basically 16 when he was there. You could argue some of that is, maybe efficiency too. Paolo just found his groove offensively, but it's like what led to him finding his groove? He simply had the ball in his hands more. Allows him to find his groove. Paolo, we know, Eastern Conference player of the week. Like, Paolo Banchero has been awesome, and that's what you have to address. I think when Markelle Fultz comes back, I think you have to basically put him in an Anthony Black role. As far as, hey, welcome back. Your role's changing. You can start, but you're not going to have the ball in your hands as much. It's tough because right now, Anthony Black, you can tell him basically sit in the corner and hit a corner 3. He's not incredible at shooting threes, but
29%.
He's respectable, I think, in the corner. He especially was earlier. He definitely has cooled off a little bit. But you've got to tell, like, it's got to be different. I don't know if Markelle Fultz is really capable of doing that. And I don't know as far as attitude goes. I would expect Fultz, I would like to think that he would maintain positive attitude about it. But if Markelle Fultz has the confidence that I can be the guy as far as running the offense, you might have problems. He's an unrestricted free agent this summer. If he doesn't like it, he can walk. Because to be honest, I want this from Paolo way more than I want Fultz just to get his piece of the pie offensively. So it's crazy. And if you're a Markelle Fultz truther, just know Jonathan and I are also the same. Like, we agree. But unfortunately, there comes a point where there's too many cooks in the kitchen who need the ball. We need a point guard that doesn't really need the ball. And if he is, he's assisting. Markelle Fultz has got great vision, but I just don't know. He's never had over 6 assists. We've talked about this before. That's kind of the benchmark for me. I want our point guard to be a guy that can get 6 assists per game in a perfect world where the Magic are hanging banners, right? That's what I want. I don't want a point guard at this point that's going to score the ball or needs the ball. I need a guy that's going to initiate the offense, kind of get out of the picture and is cool with laying low, hitting an open 3 when the ball comes to him. That's all I want. I don't know if Markelle Fultz can do that. So it is unfortunate. I really would love to see Markelle Fultz on this team long term. But let's face it, there's a reason he's an unrestricted free agent and the Magic didn't pull the trigger on anything. They know, right? And I hope that I know they're looking at these numbers. I know they're looking at these numbers as far as the analytics and everything of what we just went over. They've got to be looking at it. I know they're always analyzing. It's part of the game. You have to. I would be very shocked if Markelle Fultz's role doesn't look different when he comes back.
Early in the season, the Magic were hanging around like 25th in offensive rating.
Mm-hmm.
Last 12 games, the Magic are 13th in offensive rating, with Paolo Banchero primarily having the ball in his hands. far and away leading the team in touches, just a bit higher than Franz in terms of overall usage percentage, but also having a much higher time of possession per game as well. It goes to show you that in a not optimized role, like Paolo, Banchero, and Franz are just surrounded by shooters, and they're not. They're surrounded by essentially non-shooters in Anthony Black and Goga Batadze, and Jalen Suggs, who, even though has been shooting the ball really well, I don't know that teams totally respect him from behind the arc. So he's not really creating that gravity and that spacing in that lineup just yet. And still, Paolo and Franz are just outside of the top 10 in offensive rating the last 12 games, just basically because they are that good, really. Right? Like, and sure, Bench has been playing great as well. Mo Wagner is his, offensive resurgence as of late, and Cole Anthony's been playing really well. I know that's contributed to it as well, but it just goes to show you that a team without Markelle Fultz, with Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner, is still capable of being a pretty solid offensive team. And I think I'm sort of where you are with Markelle, that like I don't think that this team is better without Markelle Fultz, or this team is worse with Markelle Fultz in the lineup. But I do think the evidence shows that the offense is better going through Paolo and going through Franz. And I do think Markelle can be really good. I don't even want to say in the Anthony Black role, because I think you can still get more out of Markelle than what Anthony Black is giving you.
Of course.
Do I think Markelle can be every bit as good of a cutter as Anthony Black has proven to be? Yes. So if you're giving me, Anthony Black, 29% from three, gives you a bit more 3-point shooting than Markelle, but doesn't really, like, I'm not ready to be like, he gives you shooting over Markelle, because like neither of them are really giving you shooting. So I'm saying that Markelle gives you sort of what Anthony Black does offensively, but with a bit more shot creation. So having another guy that's sort of like a safety valve that you can go to with 5 or 6 seconds left, or a guy that we know you can put him in the high pick and roll at the end of games and he's capable of getting you a high quality shot, I'm perfectly fine if Markelle is fine in that role.
To your point, he has to excel off ball. Has to. Easy cuts to the basket. Imperative. That is how this works. Because you are asking whoever this is in said role, you are asking them to basically get out of the way. Because Paolo Banchero needs the basketball. And we trust him to have it and grow and be our guy. But the only way this happens is if you let him have reps. He has to have the basketball.
The only way you ever hang a banner is if Paolo gets those reps.
You have to. So get out of the way, respectfully, and play off ball. You can bring the ball up the court, but quick pass and you're going to the corner to wait for your moment to sink into the whatever defense is being played, find the open spot in the defense, make the right backdoor cut against a man defense. This can't be negotiable at this point. Is there a world where the games that we've seen of Markelle Fultz just simply there wasn't enough of them, and maybe Paolo finds his groove, the Magic adjusts our offense, and it's all peachy with Markelle Fultz on the court? Absolutely. So it does stink that it was a small sample size to start the year and that we're having this conversation because of the win streak, because of the numbers. Paolo Banchero taking off. It wasn't a coincidence. It happens with him getting more touches. 20 more touches a game is not a few. It's a noticeable difference. So I'm hoping that when Markelle comes back, I don't know when that's going to be. Who knows when that's going to be? But the role's got to change. And it's also weeks go by, Markelle Fultz still isn't back. I'm going to start asking questions. Like, what is going on? Is the injury worse than we think? Is the team holding him back, holding him out right now to keep him healthy for potential trade? For a team that just wants to unload cap in the offseason? I don't know. But there's going to be questions that are asked.
I'm not anywhere near the conspiracy theories just yet with Markelle.
I'm
Like,
always with conspiracy theories. So
no, that's fine. But like, I just think the tendonitis. Like, I've had tendonitis in my shooting arm before, and like it took months to go away. Like, I couldn't even really lift my arm without feeling just like this burning, like yanking sensation in my bicep. So I've dealt with that before, and it takes a long time of just like doing absolutely nothing for that to go away. But for a guy that, has had the ACL injury, in the past, it's a bit more concerning. One thing that I think that deserves a bit of attention too is just the way that Jalen Suggs has played the last 12 games. Now, he's only played in 11 of the last 12 games. He missed a game due to injury. But in the last 11 games, Jalen Suggs is averaging 13.8 points per game, shooting 49.1% from the floor, shooting 39% from the three-point line, and 82% from the free throw line. If we're talking about the type of player that will be able to help optimize Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner, that is a better 11-game stretch offensively than I think we will ever see Markelle play in the same lineup as Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner.
Mm.
And we're talking about a guy who, like, we did not expect a lot offensively, like, coming into this year. And I do think the way that Jalen has been playing, especially in some of these games, getting off to the hot starts that he has, I don't think he would have had those opportunities with Markelle in the lineup. So part of me is like, Markelle has been in the league for, 6, 7 years now, drafted in, 2017. And I mean, how much better is Markelle? And I hate that this is coming across like we're killing Markelle Fultz, because we know the impact that Markelle Fultz has on winning, like in the right roster construction. But we're talking about a guy who averages 11.4 points per game, shoots 48% from the or 47% from the floor for his career, 27% from behind the arc, and just we haven't seen like a lot of those like explosive scoring nights, at least not enough of them to make me feel comfortable. Like, oh no, we're going to take the ball out of Paolo's hands when Markelle comes back, because that's been the difference. Paolo's just eaten up those touches since Markelle has gone out.
I mean, not to beat a dead horse here, I think that the point has come across, but you mentioned Markelle Fultz and not seeing enough when it comes to point output to believe that he can be a guy that's going to consistently do that for you. You've already got your 2 scorers. The last thing this team needs is another scorer anyway, but you need guys that are great off ball to optimize Paolo and Franz, guys that are great off ball, and you need guys that can shoot the basketball. I think the offense, because this ties into the other guy we've had out for a while, and Wendell Carter Jr., I think the offense takes another leap when Wendell comes back. And with the caveat that Markelle Fultz isn't taking away 20 touches for Paolo Banchero, like it's been implied would happen if he comes back and that same offense is being ran. Wendell's ability to stretch the floor gives you things Goga doesn't give. Shout out to Goga for hitting a 3. Was that last game or the game before? I was like, whoa, hey, you haven't taken a 3 in like 10 games. Attaboy. Step up, knock it down. But Wendell Carter, I'm ready to have him back for that sake, for the sake of that. I don't know what you do. Are you going to run a 3-center rotation? I don't think so. I don't think you should.
Sit Mo, though.
You can't. So Goga's got to go to the DMP, unfortunately. Serviceable, did great things, great rim protector. But you've got Wendell coming back, and I think offensively gives you a great lift. He can still be a rim deterrent. Might have to have a little bit more attention to detail on the defensive end. You can't exactly let your guy blow by you and know that Goga's at the rim anymore. But worth it, I think, in the exchange. So a lot of things come in this team's way. A lot of adjustments that are going to be made. I have full trust that this coaching staff is crunching numbers and understanding how they need to handle it when those guys return. Wendell, I don't know that much will have to change, or it won't be a hard change. But as we've noted with Markelle Fultz, it's going to be some tough decisions. And if they go back to what they were doing, I will be severely disappointed. So
that's where I'm at. Like, I think the last part of this was just like, what do we expect the Magic to do? Which is Markelle Fultz and Wendell Carter Jr. both get inserted back into the starting lineup. Wendell's role like maybe changes just like a little bit. Like he doesn't get as many touches as he was before, but he wasn't getting a ton. I do think like the offensive pecking order at this point should be, Paolo, Franz, whoever you want to call 1A, 1B. Paolo getting, most of the touches. Paolo, Franz, Jalen, and then whoever else is in the lineup, those guys are just going to be, 4A and 4B. It doesn't really matter.
No.
But I will be incredibly disappointed if we come back and it becomes like the Markelle offense again.
What I will say before we wrap here is how thankful I am that this team is now in the role player picking stage. Who do we've got the guys who are the perfect complementary pieces, and now you can officially feel like it was pretty concrete after last year, obviously, but now it definitely feels like everything is concrete. We've got our two guys, 1A, 1B, and we just need to see who complements them best. Start throwing guys in there, signing guys, trading for guys that you think will be great pieces, and you've got evidence that they did that on their last team. You know what you're looking for now. You are closing in on the formula and are just going to start troubleshooting who are the final pieces to add to this roster, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Which, by the way, Franz Wagner is going to have a really good chance at the Eastern Conference Player of the Week. I'm pulling up stats for the last week here, looking at the Eastern Conference. I mean, Franz Wagner up there, 27 points per game, shot 55% from the floor, 58 from behind the arc, 6.7 rebounds, 5.3 assists, and they went 2-1 on the week. You look at other guys. I mean, there's a lot of deserving guys. Jimmy Butler, Tyrese Maxey, Giannis, and so on and so forth. Franz he's definitely going to get nominated at the very least, and that's going to be 2 straight weeks that Franz is nominated for Eastern Conference Player of the Week. And if he doesn't win it, maybe they give it to him. I don't know, probably a little bit unlikely at this point. But yeah, to your point, you have 2 guys now, and it's just about letting them do what they do best, which ultimately is going to be best for this team. And that's sort of where we are now. I know we're going to get crap for this because there are people that love Markelle, and I don't think there's anybody that loves Markelle more than we do.
Right.
But I don't know how you look at the sample size that we've had while he's been out, and then you just completely ignore that when he comes back. Like, something has to change, and I expect something will change.
Yeah.
Luke, let's take a look at the week ahead, and really, I'm going to call this the next 2 months ahead, because we're not going to spend a ton of time on this. I mean, we're at almost an hour and 15 minutes recording currently. But looking at this week, so they don't play again until Wednesday. They'll be at Cleveland on Wednesday. That game will tip off at 7 o'clock. Then you're home on Friday versus the Pistons. That game will tip off at 7 o'clock. And then you got Saturday, Sunday off, and then you're home for the Cavaliers. So you play them twice next week. Luke, adding Cleveland and Detroit to the schedule here, now that the Magic haven't made the in-season tournament, we talked about the middle of December through the end of January like being this gauntlet. Now that you're adding Cleveland, to the front of the week here, yes, you get a brief reprieve. You should be able to take care of the Pistons, but over the course of, I believe, I think it's 29 games here. I'm going to count this really quickly here. 1, 2, 3, 4.
It is 29 for sure.
The next 29 games, perfect. Between now and January 29th, there are 4 games in which you play teams that are not currently in the playoff picture. Two of those teams are the Golden State Warriors, who are just outside the playoff picture, and obviously they're the Golden State Warriors. You're going to play them in Golden State, so I don't think that's a team that you can just look past. And then Friday, January 26th, at Memphis, Ja Morant will be back, and the Memphis Grizzlies will look much different by that point. They might be in the playoff picture by that time. So over the next 29 games, Luke, you have 4, arguably 2 games where you're playing against not playoff caliber teams.
Yeah.
This is going to be the season for the Magic. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good, man. Okay, so first I sincerely want to apologize on me doubling down on 29 games. I was looking at this the other day, and I had basically done, like, as we were texting, if the Magic go 14-15 over 29 game span, this is actually going to be through the Spurs game, the last game of January. Not, I think you had cut off right before that when talking about
Dallas. It's 27.
Yeah. So
it's 27 freaking games where you're, almost every night playing a playoff team.
And at that point, you've got to go 500, like close to 500. You can't go 527 games. Math doesn't math there. So you got to go whatever 13-14 or 14-13 but the good news is if you do go 500, which, let me be clear, I think this team absolutely can go 500. I think they are good enough. They've showed us that. Before the season started, I would have told you this team does not go 500 in a stretch, in the slightest. But knowing what I know now, there's definitely a chance, right?
You only have 11 home games during that stretch, by the way.
Yeah, that's rough. Thankfully, we've been good at home. But you go 14-13, that would put you at 28 wins and 19 losses.
Pretty good.
I would take it. And that's just basically going 500. Play 500 basketball through the end of January, and we're cooking a little bit. You can start then being like, does this team have a realistic chance of 48 wins, 47 wins? I think that they will if you go 500 here, because there is a favorable stretch in the last month and a half. I think there's a pocket there of games where your eyes light up a little bit, and you're like, if the Magic lose ground at any point this season, this is where they pick it back up. So it's not all doom and gloom with this team at all, and we've put ourselves thankfully in a great position to weather the storm, have the confidence, have the data to this point of what this team does well and what they don't do well, to trust the coaching staff going into this 27 game stretch. How do we approach it? I have full trust that this team is going to do that, and the Magic are going to play at least 500 basketball.
So if you go 500 basketball through this 27 game stretch, and you end up, what did you say, 28-19, you'd have 35 games left. So if you roughly go 500 and you win 17 of those
45
games,
wins.
That's 45 wins.
So you're saying go 500 basically the rest of the season?
Yeah. You go 500 the rest of the season, and you're a 45 win team.
It's
incredible.
You're sitting at 45-37, probably good for, give or take, 6 or 7 seed. We will hope it's the 6th. But that's if you play 500 basketball. This team to this point has played 70, 0.70, 70% win percentage or something crazy right now. Playing with your hair on fire right now. Sky's the limit for this team. But yeah, you're literally 70%, 700 win percentage essentially, or whatever, 70%. However you say those words out loud. I don't say those out loud a lot. But yeah, listen, man, this team has the chance to do something incredible, to go from the amount of wins you have last season to potentially winning 45 plus games is outlandish. Jamal Mosley wins Coach of the Year at that point, by the way. So, and I think I would go to assume that your players rack up a lot of awards, and maybe all defensive team. One of them, maybe 2 of them, probably 1.
If the Magic are 28-19, that you got the Spurs game right after that. So
29-19, basically.
Yeah. So if you're 29-19, the beginning of February, we're talking about Paolo and Franz playing in the Sunday game in Indy. We're talking about those guys as all-stars at that point.
Yeah.
And yes, you're absolutely talking about Jamal Mosley, Coach of the Year, other guys, all defensive consideration. I want to go through the schedule really quickly just to give people full context so they know that we're like not exaggerating. So it's at Cleveland versus Detroit versus Cleveland, at Boston versus Miami, at Milwaukee, at Indiana, at Washington versus Philadelphia versus the Knicks, at Phoenix, at Golden State, at Sacramento, at Denver, home for Atlanta, home for Minnesota, which is the best team in the West right now, at Miami, at OKC, at the Knicks, at Atlanta, home for Philadelphia, home for Miami, home for Cleveland, at Memphis, home for Phoenix, at Dallas. Like there was like I think we had like a 17 or like a 12 game stretch last year in December where like we were praying that we would go 500. I think we went like 8-4, 9-3 during that stretch. This puts that to shame. This is absolutely brutal scheduling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, nothing else to add to that. And it, obviously, audio-wise, it's hard to really compute. Maybe every team that he just said, just pull up the schedule somewhere and look at it yourself through January. It is rough.
But then it's not as rough after that. So let's just
you're getting all the hard games out of the way.
If this is the team that they've looked like so far to start the season, and the team that we all know they can be, and the team that we thought they were going to be all off season, let's get through that stretch. If we're sitting at 29-19, the beginning of February, everybody's going to be really happy about that.
Yeah.
All right, Luke, let's go ahead and close it out. Just a reminder, folks, the next Six Fan Show is going to be filmed outside of Amway next Monday, the 11th, when the Magic take on the Cleveland Cavaliers. And our next watch party is coming up December 15th, not this coming Friday, but the following Friday at Castaway Sports Bar and Grill, located at 504 North Alafaya Trail. That game tips off at 8 o'clock. The festivities will kick off around 7:30. Luca, anything else before we put a bow on this one?
I think they've heard us talk enough. I'm all right.
Fair enough.
Magic.
Yeah, this is the longest episode we've had in a hot minute. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. That is going to do it for this one. For Luke Sylvia, this has been Jonathan Osborne. You all have been listening to the Six Man Show. We will catch you guys next time. See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Sixth Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Sixth Man Show. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic!